Notebooks. What a pure joy these notebooks are, because unlike digital technology, you can keep them in a bookshelf and every now and again go back and look at what you were doing. And that is what I did over the weekend. And I came across a notebook that I created back in 2009. This one's actually 2010. And it's basically a bullet journal before bullet journaling had been invented. Now, I cannot remember where I got this idea from, but I know it wasn't my own unique idea. There was quite a lot on the internet around getting things done. And back then we didn't have the smartphones that we have today. So if you wanted to run getting things done, it really was an analog system. And I used to carry this little notebook around with me in my bag, and I basically managed my day from here. And what I really liked about this system, and in many ways I still follow it today with my Daybook, is I used to put in my appointments, but when I called it GTD time, and I'll show you can see this on screen. I actually called it GTD time, and I would then put my email. Yeah, even 16 years ago, we had to deal with email. And I had to put my other things that I did down here, write blog posts and stuff like that. That was 16 years ago. Wow, and I had my appointments, and that was a Saturday. But that got me thinking, what is it that we use notebooks today? Because I can promise you that any digital file I created in 2010 is long gone. I may have some stuff on a hard drive with a regular old-fashioned USB port to get into my computer, which my computer doesn't have regular USB. I do have the adapter, so I probably could go looking for it, but it's going to take me a long time to find any of those digital files. But this is in my bookshelf right behind me. It's simple. I can find out exactly what I was doing on Saturday, the 3rd of April, 2010. And I know that I went to Asang Medical Center to teach. I was teaching a business English class from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. that morning. It just blows me away that I have my appointments from 16 years ago right in front of me. But there are many other uses for books and notebooks and things. One of which I haven't really covered much on, is a Commonplace notebook. Now, Commonplace notebooks have been around since the 18th century. And I remember watching reading recently the complete works of Sherlock Holmes. And Sherlock Holmes in the books, I've never seen this in the TV shows, but in the books had a Commonplace book of all his cases. And I remember that I started one. This one is actually my history Commonplace notebook, or one of them. I've got many of them because history and learning about history is one of my hobbies. But in this particular notebook, I've got all sorts of things in here. I've got things on chicken farming. I don't know where that came from. I remember reading a lot about Jack the Ripper, and I put loads of details in there. Edward and Mrs. Simpson, I've kept notes on there. I have kept a load of historical notes that I've picked up from documentaries and books that I've read. And all of these were just amazing. Like Sir Francis Walsingham, who was the Queen Elizabeth I super spy, almost like the first spy agency did the Walsingham create. And I've done things, all sorts of things in here. It's just an amazing document with all sorts of just random bits of information. And that's the purpose of the Commonplace notebook, is you get random bits of information. This is actually my health one, and I've got something from an interview with Andrew Huberman and Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. And this was more about maintaining muscle mass as you grow older. So I have kept like specific Commonplace notebooks for certain things. As I say, this is my health one, this is a history one, and this is just random stuff that I've picked up. And I can fill these notebooks up with all sorts of random stuff. And also I can play around with different colored inks, which is a lot of fun. But this is one of the great things about these notebooks. I mean, I know that I started this history one but maybe 3 years ago, and I've still got it. I know if I'd put this into Evernote or Apple Notes or something, it'd just be part of just the everyday stuff that I would never look at. So these notebooks are just phenomenal things that will just stay with you for the rest of your life. And if you wish, you can ask them to be burnt on your death if you want, or you can just hand them down to your grandkids as you get older. They are just phenomenal things to keep, way better than digital tools will ever be. Now, there are a few other things that you can use notebooks for. One of the things that I've often mentioned is always carrying a pocket notebook. Now, this is a Smythson pocket notebook. These are relatively, well, I say relatively, they're just stupid expensive. I picked these up in the sale, but one of these actually lasts me about 2 years. What I like to do is, at the end of the day, I don't really like to have my phone with me when I finish working. I spend all day in front of a computer screen. So often when I finish here in the office at night and I go through and say, okay, it's R&D time, research and development. No, it's R&R time, rest and relaxation time. I just take this with me. I put my phone on the coffee table so it's out of reach. And if I need to capture something, any ideas and stuff like that, I just throw them in here. And one of which I was watching a documentary on the Great British Train Journeys by, which is just a fantastic little series. And they were doing Southern Ireland. Now, I go to Ireland pretty much every year. And there was a couple of places that I thought, oh, I'm going to add that to my itinerary. So I just wrote them down here. That's Blarney Castle, the Blarney Stone, and Killarney National Park. Looked fantastic, so I'm definitely going to go there. But I keep all sorts of things down here. This is an idea for a YouTube video, which is right there, that I suddenly, and I wrote it down in here. It doesn't matter that it's not digital because I can transfer that to digital. The other thing is I take these with me whenever I go out to pick up Louis or my wife, because Louis often has these when he's at grooming. He's not always ready on time. So I have this with me and I can jump into a coffee shop and wait for the telephone call and I can just take notes. And I love that. It's just a superb little book that you can carry around, fits perfectly in your pocket. And then we get onto the journal. Now the journal is my tracking device. I write in my journal every day. Now I know people are going to ask me, what is this journal that I have? You really do not want to look at the price of these. They are just astoundingly expensive. But I'm thinking of this. This is something that may be available, hopefully will be handed down generation after generation after generation. I think of myself as the 21st century's Samuel Pepys. Well, maybe not. But what I'm doing is I just write in here my random thoughts every day. And no, you can't read this. But one of the things I do want to share with you is I always put my morning routines here. This kind of gets me started. And down here is my exercise, the exercise that I did for the day. So I'm tracking my exercise, I'm tracking my morning routines, and then it's just a random stream of thoughts, things that's in my head at the time. Now, sometimes on particularly busy days, I often will put in my objectives for the day. And I'm not always consistent with this, but I do, like you can see on this particular page, I've put my objectives for the day there because it was really important that I got them done. Another thing that I always do is every single day, every Wednesday and Saturday, I put my weight in here up at the top. Now, I've done this in the past using computer systems. I've kept lists everywhere on my computer. Unfortunately, I never go and find them, but here, because I take my weight first thing in the morning, come through, make a cup of tea and sit down and write my journal, I've got a record of what my weight was earlier that week or the week before. And it's just a superb place to just check that I'm not going up and that my weight is either stable or going down. So these things are just wonderful. And if you really are curious, this is the Smythson Portobello notebook. They are, as I say, ridiculously expensive, but they are incredibly well built. You might not be able to see that on the video camera, but they are sewn into these leather binders, and I can assure you they're practically indestructible. And finally, what you can do is, I've mentioned these numerous times before, is you can have your project notebook. Now, this is I call it my project book or planning book. And I keep this planning book every year. So one A4 notebook will last me a whole year. And in here, I've got all the projects. So these actually are just 2 YouTube videos that I've done, planned out, everything's in here. But this is just phenomenal because it means that I can just grab this, grab a pen and go through into the dining room and just be digitally distraction free. Does that make sense? Or distraction free for 30 minutes or an hour while I really just let my thoughts flood out and I can just plan out the project. They're just superb little books, not expensive. You can pick up an A4 notebook from pretty much anywhere, just put it on your desk, leave it on your desk or put it next to your desk, and you've got a planning tool that's simple, doesn't require recharging, isn't going to give you any distractions, right there in front of you. Just a superb tool. So if you're thinking about doing anything, just if you become frustrated with digital tools and the constant changing and features update, go back to pen and paper. There are certainly wonderful ways. I actually use these days now what I call a daybook. Now this one was a particularly busy day, but a daybook basically just has my appointments down the side. It's my most important tasks here, not all my tasks. I do still use a hybrid productivity system. And if you want to learn more about my whole hybrid productivity system, then you can check out the hybrid productivity course that I did just a few weeks ago because people were asking me, how do you put it all together, the digital and the analog? Well, I created this daybook, and the daybook basically just has my appointments down there so I can see where I need to be. It's my task list, my inbox, and then notes at the bottom. Just a superb tool to carry on my desk at all times because it keeps me focused on what's important. I find with Todoist, which is my beloved digital to-do list, is great for collecting stuff and for planning out what I'm going to do in the week. But once the day begins, I want to be hyper-focused on what's important today. And I write them down into this daybook and it just keeps me on track all day. And since I adopted this, which is probably sometime last year, having done the Franklin Planner experiment, I found that my focus and productivity just skyrocketed. I didn't procrastinate, and I just realized that what was causing the procrastination was the digital technology, because I got email on there, Slack on there, Twist, which is the one I use, and everything else was just bang, bang, bang coming at me. It was never ending. This gives me an end. You know, I've done them, I've done my appointments, and I've crossed everything off, and it's like, hey, my day is done. I never found that with digital tools. So digital tools are part of the day because digital calendars are superb, and digital to-do lists are superb, but not necessarily on a day-to-day basis because it's just showing you too much and it overwhelms you. This, using pen and paper, gives you a way of being able to just filter out the noise and focus in on what is important today. So if you want to learn more about some of all the things that I've been doing, and particularly the specific items that I'm using, then this video up here will definitely be the one to watch next.